Hi there, my name is Lo. Welcome to my channel where I discuss everything between Hermes and grocery bags. It's the end of April and it is King's Day today, which means that in the Netherlands today we celebrate the King's birthday, but it's also a bank holiday, so it's always good to have a day off. Unfortunately, it's really cold outside and I'm also suffering from a cold myself, so I'm not feeling my best, but I'm hoping that whatever is in this package can cheer me up a little. So today I'm actually going to do a true unboxing. As you can see, the box has not been opened yet. And in earlier videos I've said I don't really want to do unboxing videos because it's not uncommon for me to change my mind about bags when I have them for a couple of days. But I figured I could reach some middle ground here, so I'm going to unbox this so that you can have an initial reaction, and then I'm gonna let some time pass and shoot a second part of the video so that you can get a bit more of a contemplated response from me. So without further ado, let's just get to it. I was already wondering why this box was so massive, but it actually comes in another box. So just had to grab a little box cutter to open this, but the fact that it comes in a box... Oh, hi there kitty. Of course, a box comes out and a kitty comes out. But I think it's a good sign that it actually comes in a box. Okay. And there you have it. Actually really well packaged. It is a bag from Aigner. So, this feels kind of heavy. Let's get the box out of the way. Well, I have to say I'm pretty pleased with the packaging, at least. Well, this bag is definitely not a return for a change. Let me just zoom in a bit. So this is the Aigner Eva bag. Take off some of the packaging. It is a flat bag with a magnetic closure. It really has a very strong magnetic closure, which I think is good because the chains on this bag pull through the lid. Perhaps a little story time before I gather my initial thoughts here. So I was thinking about getting a bag from Aigner for a while. Honestly, I couldn't really find a lot of information or a lot of reviews about their bags, but it does seem that they're really specializing in leather goods, and overall their bags don't come cheap, but they do quite often come on a discount. And I chose one in particular that doesn't have a lot of branding, so it just has the little A here on the front. And I was doubting quite a bit whether I wanted to add a Aigner bag to my collection, because I frankly already have so many bags that I have to be a bit cautious in terms of what I want to add to my collection. But then a couple of weeks ago I saw an acquaintance with an Aigner bag, and also I don't really ever see people wearing Aigner, so I asked her if she liked her bag. It was not a bag that I was on the lookout for, but it did look really beautiful, really well crafted. And she said she'd really pulled it through the ringer and that she put sunscreen on it and all that kind of stuff. And it was a pretty structured bag, but given that she told me that she already had it for a while and she was really not babying this bag, I was quite impressed by how well it looked. And this was one of the two bags that was sort of on my radar. The other bag is the Alona bag, which is a very different bag from this one, but I think that has a pretty cool silhouette. But I was also kind of interested in this one also because it reminds me a little bit of the YSL Nikki. So a flat bag, and of course there's a million flat bags, but it's not a super structured flat bag, which I also think the YSL Nikki is like. And it has this front pocket, which is also a feature on the YSL Nikki. It does seem to have some very nice micro suede fiber here on the inside. The leather is really thick on this bag, pretty impressive. It does give quite a bit of weight to the bag, especially also this chain seems to be quite heavy. But first impressions of the quality, I have to say, is pretty good. Stitching looks nice. On most places they've used piping to protect the corners and the edges of the bag. They've done a decent job on the glazing here on the flap. Magnetic closure here, that is really strong. Jeez. This is really, really strong. That might come up as a con when I have to think about it a little bit longer. Unwrap the chain because I'm intrigued. So at first glance, the drop length on this chain doesn't seem to be all that long, but after trying it out, in front of the mirror just now. This is actually perfectly fine for me because this bag is a bit more squishy. It also feels comfortable over the shoulder. I do feel that this might be a bag that gets a little saggy perhaps over time just because it has a little less structure to it, but that's something that a bag organizer might solve for. But yeah, overall first impression, pretty nice bag in terms of pretty nice leather, pretty nice craftsmanship. Also these handles over here have been stitched really nicely. This is also very soft and flexible but decent at the same time. So I think I'm just going to think about this a little bit longer. That's it for now. On to part 2. Alright, so I am back. I've had this bag for about 1.5 weeks now. I've also taken this bag out on 2 occasions. So one time I took it to work, and then another time I took it on an errand, which was kind of urgent, so I wasn't really meaning to take it, but my stuff was still in there, so I just ran with it. So as you can already tell, at least, I decided not to return the bag, but to keep it. And now that I've also used it at least a full day, I thought it might be nice to also give you a bit more of a review of this bag, or at least my first impressions. As you can see, it is packed to the brim with my stuff, so I'll be going through the exterior, and then first I'll do a what's in my bag before I move on to talking about the straps and the interior, because that will just be more convenient filming. But otherwise I'm just doing a full style review as I usually do with my bags. So let's start off by talking about the exterior. Just to give you the full details of this bag, this is the Aigner Munich Eva medium bag. Please note there's also an Eva bag, AVA, and this is the Eva bag, EVA, just so that you don't get confused when looking for it. This is the medium. It comes in 2 sizes. There's also 1 size down. Personally, with these shoulder style type of bags, I like them always to be a bit bigger. This one is in the color Burgundy, but it comes in a number of other colors as well, mostly neutrals. I think there's black and white and burgundy. This one has aged gold hardware, and the material is a pebbled cowhide. Note there's also a variant or style of this bag that comes specifically with the Aigner quilting. This bag is fortunately pretty much logo free, except for this tiny little A here on the front of the bag. The interior is a microfiber. Again, we'll come to that later. And the dimensions of this bag are 29 centimeters or 11.4 inches. The height is 17.5 centimeters or 6.9 inches. And this bag has quite a bit of depth to it. So the depth of this bag is 14 centimeters or 5.5 inches. As I'm holding this here on my arm, I think I will set it down in a little bit because the weight of this bag empty is actually already 900 grams or approximately 2 pounds, so it's definitely not the lightest bag out there. But just to give you a little tour of the bag, so it is a flap style bag with a chain handle. It does have this separate front pocket, which I will show you in a little bit. Nothing going on the side. It has a fairly spacious back pocket that has the Aigner logo, but you wear that against your body, so that's not very visible. And also the lining of this back pocket is a microfiber. Note that this bag doesn't have any feet on it, so that might contribute a little bit to the wear of the bag over time. So let's open this baby up. It has a very strong magnetic closure, as I already pointed out in the unboxing. Here you can see the contents of the bag. So I decided to use the front pocket for my pouch that I will usually bring to work. If you've seen other videos of mine, you might already know what is in there. It has my headphones, my card holder, a box of mints, some paracetamols, house key, lip balm, and a €2 coin. As some of you may already know, I don't really use the organization as bags have them. I just use pouches and organize things the way I like myself. So this bag has this fairly spacious front compartment, also lined with the microfiber fabric. And then there's this main compartment. In the main compartment, I have my phone, my flip phone, my sunglasses, a little canvas tote for groceries, and then I also took my other pouch. This contains a lot of knickknacks. If you want to know what is in here, have a look at my video about how I make every bag a work bag and what I take to work. But as you can see, this is really quite a spacious bag. It has this slip pocket here at the front. I find that to be a bit loose, but I don't know, it might be convenient. And then it also has this very big zippered compartment at the back. I didn't even notice, but I was going to say that it had the care card in this, but this is actually a card that tries to prompt me into making pictures of this bag and putting them on social media and to reach out to them if I have any questions. But in any case, spacious zippered compartment. It has the little Aigner plate here on the inside, and I think what is also a nice detail that the zipper pull also has this little A, which is the Aigner logo, so that is well thought of. Besides that, the lining is really completely loose or separate from this bag. I can never really tell if that is a good thing or a bad thing, but I think at least personally for this bag, that's perfectly fine. So that was the interior and all of the things that I can put in my bag. I think if we put it all together, it's really quite a decent amount of stuff that fits in there. Perhaps before we move on, let's also try out some of the items I will usually try to stuff in my bags. So here we have the A5 notebook, the full-size wallet, and the water bottle. I think none of these are going to be an issue. So full-size water bottle, yes. Let's go ahead with the notebook. A5 notebook, yes. Continental wallet, or full-size wallet, or whatever you want to call it, yes, also perfectly fine. Obviously, if you bring all this stuff, you might have to pick and choose a little bit in terms of what you are going to bring, but technically all of these things fit. So this is really a spacious bag, and if you just merely look at the dimensions, you wouldn't think, I suppose, that this is a spacious bag, but I did find that when I was wearing it, it didn't really feel all that big or all that bulky, to be honest. Okay, so we now have everything out of the bag. You can also see that right now it's becoming a bit more squishy and floppy, though the base is still fairly structured, like that's okay. Let's talk about the strap for a second. So I think overall very, very beautiful strap. It is like decent quality. That also makes it fairly heavy. I think that the straps are really nicely made. They're also fairly thick, so wearing this over the shoulder I personally found very comfortable. It's one of those chains that you can just roll through the bag. If you wear it doubled up, then the strap has a drop of 27.5 centimeters or 10.8 inches. If you wear it single, so to say, then the strap drop is 51 centimeters or 20 inches. Personally, I think this also looks really cute, like this handle sticks out just a little bit. If you figure out a way to block the chain here on the inside, for example, so that it cannot move, this could also really be a cute top handle style. Not one that you could wear over the wrist, but definitely one that you could wear in your hand. So usually with these types of bags, I find that they don't really have a lot of versatility to them, because you can basically only wear it in two ways, either single or doubled up. But if you have one of those little clasps so that you can tie the chain together, and I've just attached one for demonstration purposes over here right now. So these things are super cheap, but they do allow you to give a lot more diversity to bags with chains that have these grommets. And then you could also decide to just wear it as a cute little top handle and have a bit of strap lingering here, because that is not all that long anymore. That might wear nicely then as a shoulder bag, but I will insert a mud shot just to show you what that could look like. So then I suppose it's time to move on to the pros and the cons, which I always find a little bit difficult if I haven't used a bag a lot, but you've been warned that this is just a first impressions video. So what I would say the pros of this bag are, first of all, I think this is really kind of a YSL Nikki dupe. Like, I know it is not exactly the same, and also this bag has a bit more depth to it than the Nikki does, but in terms of width and height, it is actually fairly similar to the YSL Nikki medium. Also, the grommets are located next to one another, while on the Nikki, I think they are positioned like this, but personally having grommets aligned like that always has my personal preference, and of course we don't have to like everything about the original. But yeah, if it is a style that you are interested in trying out, but now with the massive price increases that YSL has gone through, you might not be ready to invest in a Nikki just quite yet, definitely have a look at this one, because I think it is really beautifully crafted, and the leather on this, on most of the bag, is really, really thick. So the sides are a little bit thinner, but even the front compartment is really, really thick. So I wouldn't be surprised if this bag actually has fairly good durability. The bag has glazing on the flap, but apart from that, most of the bag also has piping, which supposedly should last a little bit longer. Again, I'm not really worried about the durability of this bag in that sense. I found that thus far it wears very comfortably, which I was not per se expecting. Also because it's fairly heavy, and especially the chain on this is fairly heavy, but also just because the leather is so thick, it is fairly heavy. But for the time I've worn it, and I think I've worn it, well, throughout the day, at least for more than an hour. But these leather pieces really do make it fairly comfortable. I did find that it is a little bit bulky just because it has a lot of depth to it, but as I was wearing it over the shoulder, I felt I could also tilt it a little bit backwards so that not the whole full bag was sitting under my arm. It also didn't slip off my shoulder, which was really nice. And sliding your shoulder bag a little bit more to the back, that might feel a bit insecure, because then it's not so much with inside anymore, if that makes sense. But because this bag really does have a very strong magnet, I do feel confident about this being secure, as in that it's not very easy to open. And I'm also really not scared at all that the flap will just undo and that all of my stuff would be rolling on the floor. Perhaps last to say from my initial thoughts is that this bag has good organization to it. And as I already said, I don't really use a lot of the organization possibilities that bags will offer, because I will always just work with my pouches, because I have a lot of bags that have hardly any organization and I want to be organized all the time. Because this bag is still like quite spacious and you can put a lot of stuff in there, this front pocket is quite convenient to put a number of things in that you just want to be able to find in an instant. And I also know that a lot of people can appreciate a back pocket, and this is definitely one that can also hold somewhat of a bigger phone. Then moving on to the cons. So even though it didn't bother me quite a lot, this bag is on the heavy side. In that sense, if you want to carry a lot of stuff, you would probably be better off just wearing a leather tote. By the way, this bag has been constructed. It does really add quite a lot of leather without adding a lot of capacity, if that makes sense. Second con I found thus far is that I find this quite bulky to wear as a crossbody, and also for me the strap is in that sense just a little bit too short. It would have been nice if we could have had like an additional 10 centimeters, which I guess would be around 3 or 4 inches. Another thing is that if you overstuff, especially the front pocket of this bag over here, that the flap will start standing out quite a bit. But if you don't put too much in the front pocket, or you don't put anything in the front pocket, that is, as you can see, quite fine. The more you stuff in here, the more it will sort of lean upwards. I was just talking about the magnet being very strong. With these things, it's always a pro and a con. The harder it is to get in the bag, the more secure it is. For accessibility, I would say that they could have made the magnet a little bit less strong. Like, I don't even want to open the flap pulling on this little piece of leather over here, because I think that will just like stand up over time and look ugly. So if I'm opening this bag, I will just really fold my whole hand over the flap and pull it open. And especially now with it being empty, you can see that really takes quite a bit of effort. So yeah, very secure, but in that sense perhaps not as accessible as other bags. Fortunately, of course, it does have the back pocket. And I think the last thing I wanted to note is that this bag, it has a bit of structure to it, but it is also quite floppy, and I think that is just the way that it is designed. However, because of that, I think that over time this bag might need a bag organizer, but that's definitely something that you might want to do if you don't put as much stuff in this bag. However, I had it fully packed this week and then it looks perfectly fine. If it's not so structured, it also usually wears a bit more comfortably. It's also part of why I like this bag. I'll just make sure that when I'm not using it, I keep it stuffed. And when I am using it, I will try to fill it to a reasonable capacity. So what will be my recommendation on this bag on first instance? Well, frankly, I was pleasantly surprised when I got this, which of course also corresponds in me keeping this bag, and that I found myself to be fairly positive when I was unboxing this. Like, sometimes I don't really like bags at the beginning, and I really need to set them down and try them on and just leave them for a couple of days before I could form an opinion. And when I unpacked this, I was like, this is actually better than I had expected. Overall, this bag just seems really well constructed, and the leather feels really good. It's just a type of low-key casual bag that I was looking for. However, I wouldn't really go out and pay full price for this. If you're looking at the full price of Aigner Munich bags, then you're getting in the ranges of, well, contemporary brands like Coach. Aigner is of course a European brand, so could be that these bags over here are a little cheaper, while Coach, which is an American brand, might be a little bit more expensive over here. In any case, I wouldn't really go out and pay full price for this. You simply don't have to, because these bags go on sale, and I got this with, I think, almost 70% discount. Plus, Aigner really has limited brand popularity, at least at this point in time, so the resale value of Aigner bags is probably not great. But for the right price, I definitely think it might be a brand worthwhile considering, and I will definitely keep an eye out on some other models which are a bit more structured, but that also have that nice pebbled leather. So I think overall, for the right price, Aigner could possibly really offer a good value for money. But I will just start using this bag, take it into rotation, and if I have any more thoughts to share with you guys later on, then of course I will be doing so. But for now, this is my review. These are my first thoughts. I know there's not a lot of videos about Aigner bags out there, so even if you're not out looking for this model, I hope at least to some extent this was useful. As always, if you have any questions for me, feel free to drop them down below in the comments and I'll get back to you. Remember, for now, there's a styling, a situation, and a taste for everything, so don't judge. Wear whatever bag you like, and as we would say in Dutch, doei!